All right, all right. What up, family? Peace and blessings. Welcome to Original Man Scientific and OMS TV presents the STEM Files, Women of the World in STEM. We have a wonderful show lined up for you all this evening. Before I go any further, just want to let you all know that my co-host, Magna Cardiac, is unable to be with us this evening as she had some things to take care of. However, we're going to keep it going, keep it pushing. He assured me that he will be able to come back at the end of the show, and we're going to keep it going from there. Again, I am your co-host at Jabrillion_engineer, Director of Engineering at Original Man Scientific. And also, please follow Original Man Scientific at OMAN, SCI_ and at OMS_TV. We have a wonderful guest this evening, wonderful, excited sister, powerful sister really ready to continue in her work that she does on a daily basis to really impact the world in a positive light. We have Sister Jadayah Spencer Muhammad. I got the name right. I was working on that. Who is the Executive Director of International Youth Leadership Institute. She's an advocate for improving access to opportunities that enhance the lives of youth, people of African descent, and indigenous people worldwide. A proud IYLI alumna, Sister Jadayah became an IYLI Fellow in 2010 and traveled on a 2011 summer fellowship program to Tanzania. She subsequently served in various roles, including being an IYLI volunteer, an IYLI board member, and an IYLI group leader. She serves on several international and local boards, including her work as a co-chair of the UNDPI/NGO Youth Representative Steering Committee and on the New York City Young Women's Advisory Council, which addresses policy issues that directly affect young women of color in New York City. Jadayah started her undergraduate education at age 16 as a Dean Scholar at NYU, where she majored in anthropology and double minored in social entrepreneurship and Mandarin Chinese. Jadayah is a born and raised Brooklynite and recipient of several fellowships, including Starting Block, and has been recognized as one of 40 under 40 rising stars in the NYC nonprofit sector by New York Nonprofit Media. She loves world travel, meaningful conversations, emphasis on meaningful, and dissecting rap lyrics. With that, welcome. Assalamu alaikum, sis. How are you?
Alaikum salam. I'm feeling pretty good right now. Like, it's a rainy and dreary day in New York City, but my day has just been so spectacular so far. And I get the sense this is already going to be like such a highlight already. So I'm doing pretty good. Also, I'm with a bunch of Buddhists right now downstairs, and they gave me like a lot of spring rolls. So I'm feeling really good right now.
Okay, that's what's up. Got that food, got that energy, keeping it high.
Yeah, that vegetarian goodness.
Right. We're gonna get right up into it. So going through your bio, you mentioned a lot about IYLI. Can you tell us a bit about the program, what it was about, what drew you to it, and kind of some things you learned from being a part of the program?
Yeah. Real quick, the International Youth Leadership Institute was founded back in 1989, before I was born. It was founded who were from the United States, but they lived and worked in Africa. And this is back in 1989, where it's the height of the AIDS epidemic. There's still a lot going on just across the continent of Africa, just really lots of sad stories that we read about in the history books. They were still coming to take place in 1989, and so they realized one of them, named Michael Webb, was teaching at the American University of Cairo, and the other one, named Keith Brown, he had just finished doing Peace Corps in Cameroon. And they realized while they were in Africa that the folks who were getting off of the tour buses to really appreciate and experience the beauties of African cultures and the true and beautiful history were not Black at all. And they were wondering why aren't there more Black folk traveling to Africa? So when they went back to America, they were talking, I live and I work in the continent, you should come through. They would have people say things like, oh, why would I want to do that? They got AIDS over there. They got bones in their noses over there.
Right.
There. Yeah, why would you want to have anything to do with Africa? And the thing is, if you come with this understanding of this negative idea of what it means to be of African descent, and you coming as a Black person with Africa being the cradle of humanity itself, then what does that say about how you feel about yourself? Right. And then it's not like you can depend on like a Western colonial like school system to teach you about your own history. So they decided to create IYLI, the International Youth Leadership Institute, in order to help facilitate the process of, ooh, this is awkward, my dad's calling me. I'm just gonna shoot him a text. In order to facilitate the process of us finding out for ourselves and actually just seeing for ourselves that Africa is full of more than just like the oppressed narrative, more than just the disease that you might see on the news, that there's so much rich history, so much culture, so much science and technology and things that we can learn in order to come back and like help our people wherever we are in the world. And they also figured out that if you start with, say, like adults with helping people learn and find out, it's kind of like what Frederick Douglass said. He said something like, it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. So it's like if you wait until people are older to give them this kind of exposure, then you run the risk of losing an another generation of people to the same kind of oppressive structures that have plagued our people for at least the past 400 years. So in a nutshell, I found out about IYLI in my senior year of high school, scrolling through social media, and I saw some pictures of my sisters from my mosque in front of the pyramids of Giza. And I was like, I want to go to Egypt. I want to be on a gram in front of the pyramids of Giza. How do I put me on, you know? And so then they were like, oh, there's this thing called IYLI. You should check it out. And I did. And we ended up going to Tanzania that year in East Africa. And it was so amazing and so life-changing that I just decided to stick around forever. And that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. So
I know that was a lot, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And it was good. So it's funny because I guess similar in some ways to that program. So when I went to University of Pennsylvania in 2014, I went to Ghana for a program called IDSI, International Development Summer Institute. And, you know, I bring that up because going back to the topic of travel, particularly for our people and then young people, what is it about travel, or why is it so important that people in general and then our youth travel not only within the U.S. or, you know, in a local sense, but also internationally?
Oh, man. Yo, okay. So we asking those kind of questions tonight. All right. Oh, my God. Okay. So, gosh, where do I even start? In a nutshell, it's like this, right? I once heard the minister say that if you control, I got quotes for days, but he said something like, he who controls the diameter of your thinking controls the circumference of your action, which is just another way of saying we only do things like when we know that we can do them. A baby's got to feel confident enough to try to walk in order to become a walker. You know, like those are just like, you know, really basic things. We don't get to do things like mathematics, 1 + 1 is 2, then go into timetables and log division and all that until we feel confident to know that we can, until we know that it's possible for us. And for so long, our people around the world have been kind of put into silos where we aren't really able to like get to know and see ourselves wherever we go. And so like what travel does is like, there's this story, and okay, this is my philosophy, but there's this story of, have you ever heard the story of like the blind man and the elephant?
Yes, but say it anyway because I don't remember all the details.
So I'm gonna say it anyway, right? So like, boom, you have like 5 blind men in a room, and they're trying to understand the concept of what an elephant is. And so they all put the elephant in the middle of the room, and they all are touching different parts of the elephant. So one blind man touches the tusks of the elephant. He says, I understand an elephant now. An elephant is a long and hard and smooth surface. That's what an elephant is. That's the kind of animal it is. Another person touches the elephant's hide and is like, I don't know what you're talking about. An elephant clearly is a leathery, kind of rough, like kind of animal, kind of soft but leathery animal. And another person touches the elephant's tail and says, y'all don't know what y'all are talking about, because I can clearly perceive that an elephant is like a hairy and long and soft kind of a creature. And the thing is, they're all right, of course, but in order to really understand it, you need to kind of go around and like understand, like feel it for yourself. And so for me, that's what travel is. Like, so long as we're only in like one section of the world with, you know, with our one understanding, like the whole world itself, in order to truly understand what the truth is, I think it requires us to kind of go around and try and see things from other people's perspectives in order to get an idea of what the whole big truth is. And that's what travel does, you know? Like, I've had the blessing of going to, I don't know how many countries, but I know I've been to like 5 continents so far. I have Antarctica and Australia left. But it's just everywhere that I go, I had the blessing of getting to like see myself. So one, I think travel is important for people in general, just to like have like an understanding and like a certain humility and like an ability to kind of go with the flow and understand that things can be different and like that's okay. It doesn't have to always just be your way or the highway. But then secondly, I think it's especially important for Black people because we need to see and understand our contributions to building the world that we're in. I can talk about that all day, but that's it in a nutshell.
Wow. That last part you spoke about. And then going back to the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan's quote, it said, whoever prescribes the diameter of your thinking prescribes the circumference of your activity. And I think it's, like you were saying, so important for us to understand how our thoughts are linked to what we end up doing. And if you can control either self-control or societally, whoever is controlling it is controlling how you're interacting with things and going forward throughout your life. But, you know, understanding that concept of building, you know, what it is to build, who built what, you know, how long ago. I wanted to talk about what you studied in school because I thought it was a very interesting combination. So, in the best way possible. So, anthropology, social entrepreneurship, and Mandarin Chinese. Can you talk about what drew you to those disciplines, why you chose to maybe combine them the way you did, and specifically, what do you mean by social entrepreneurship?
So first, I answer that last question first. So entrepreneurship, like, you know, like having your own business and like being your own business owner. And so social entrepreneurship is the idea that you can do that while also doing good for your community and doing good for the world. So it's like, the world we live in today, I almost majored in business studies, but then I changed it to social entrepreneurship when I found out that there was a major or a field where you could study how to do good for the world and do well for yourself and just like put those things together, that they don't have to be separate. You know, there's so many corporations out here that are making so much money but have like a terrible impact on the world. And I would like to not do that. But I someday would like to have lots of money. Right. I would like to do that. So that's why I study like social entrepreneurship, because I don't own a business right now, directly nonprofit, but there's just, you know, business is the activity of life, and I really wanted to go deep into that, but I wanted to learn how to do it in a way that I could have like a positive touch on the world around me. I studied anthropology mainly because purpose. Growing, seeing that like all around the world, and learning about the different cultures. Like I kind of like was I low key born? I was kind of born knowing that I was meant to. I've always known, no matter what I wanted to be in life, even when I wanted the first half of my life, I wanted to be like an ophthalmologist, like, you know, the person who does like surgery in your eye. Right. I wanted to be that. But when I wanted to do that, I knew I wanted to be an international ophthalmologist. Like, I'm operating on eyes all over the world, you know. And so no matter what, I always knew I wanted to travel the world. I knew I was meant to study the cultures of the world. And I knew I was meant to come back and like share that knowledge in some way to like help my people. Like I've just always known that. And seeing Mother Tynetta doing that, and also like watching Indiana Jones and like, you know, just seeing like archaeology, or I don't know how old you are, but growing up we had Jackie Chan Adventure. Anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm 25. Jackie Chan.
Yeah, so you know he's
That was
he's an archaeologist, you know, and I was like, oh, archaeology? Oh, you mean in the U.S. archaeology is a branch of anthropology, so I can study like language and culture and history and, you know, get down in the ground. I could go on, you know, I wanted to be, I wanted to have that kind of life. So that's why I did anthropology. And then lastly, Mandarin Chinese. My goal, I love to learn languages, and my goal is to learn like 15 of them. And I heard that Mandarin Chinese is really hard, so I figured that would be the best thing to like study with a teacher at university. Like I can't just like teach myself that. So that's why I minored in it. So I did like a semester abroad in Shanghai too. But yeah, that's why.
You know, so it's funny that you mentioned this. So I'm gonna talk about my family a little bit. So I have a cousin. His name is Shekna Koulibaly, and he is about to go to Temple to study Chinese. However, before this and for several years and now supremely fluent, he is self-taught in Mandarin Chinese.
Where did you say he was gonna go?
I'm sorry?
Where did you say he was gonna go?
The Temple University in Philadelphia.
Got you.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, and it gives me a renewed appreciation for what he was able to do. Because obviously, to teach yourself a language in general, you know, it's difficult. But the fact that being Mandarin Chinese being something that he will go to restaurants and speak the entire night in Mandarin, order his food in Mandarin, not only understand the conversation, but like building the conversation and really have lasting conversation in Mandarin. So it just gave me a renewed appreciation. But
that's what's
up, and I think that's a great, because being able to now study cultures, create impact, be able to speak, you know, to a people and show appreciation by using that language is so key. What going into STEM in general, you know, we talked a lot about, and you know, this is a STEM show, the need for it in general, but the need for our people to be a part of it. Where do you feel place, or what are your goals as it pertains to STEM? How do you relate to it, and what do you plan to do, and how do you plan to utilize it going forward?
So 2 things. I remember Sister Captain Emeritus Charlene Muhammad said something along the lines of like when we were talking about, she was talking about like manifesting your dreams and your goals in life. And she said something along the lines of, you know, God doesn't limit the amount of things that he creates, or the amount of processes or systems that he puts for, you know, he's not limiting like his own like manifestations. Like he doesn't like just do one thing at a time, you know? Of course, like we all just have like different processes, but in a nutshell, science and technology is like my other love. I mean, I guess just like, you know, growing up in this environment where you learn about, you know, the whole dimensions of your planet and the universe, maybe before you could even walk, you know, your parents are telling you about this, all like 196,940,000 square miles, which is like why it's important. I think, you know, we didn't learn all of that just to stay on our one block. But back to your question. I really do foresee myself like inventing or like using. I want to like just push certain technologies forward. I don't want to go too deep into it right now, but like I have like a few ideas that I need to see happen, and I'm not really seeing like the technology that I see in the present day seldom impresses me. So like I want to, at some point in my life, I definitely want to like just dedicate more time to like just kind of making those like ideas and those like innovations happen. One thing that does impress me though is like being able to talk to someone from miles away. Like I love technology so much for that. It's so great. Also like the airline, like the whole flight transit situations definitely got to change. Like, oh, so pardon me. I mentioned that it's really rainy in New York City, and the wind just kind of blew the window that I'm at. Like, I really got scared. I almost ran away. Okay, I think I'm good. And also to answer your question, at IYLI, the International Youth Leadership Institute, part of what we do, again, is like learning from different leaders all over the world. So, and that includes science leaders. So, you know, there's scientists everywhere. all over this world. And there's so many scientific innovations that have come from Black people that we need to like know and understand and see how we can push forward too. So for example, IYLI, we've conducted programs in 17 different countries, but when we go to Senegal specifically, our focus is renewable energy and health. And so Senegal is like really innovative and beautiful. Like people have set up these, turn like the villages that folks live in into eco villages, which is like villages that like are really centered around like about like producing like agriculture that can then lend itself toward different technologies and commerce that can then lend itself toward like a sustainable way of living for the people who live there and a sustainable way of existing for the entire like flora and fauna of that region as well. So I've seen people take like desertified areas that are nothing but sand and arid land and then turn them into oases based off of the technology that they've used. At the University of Sheikh Anta Diop, like there are whole buildings at that university that are powered by the solar panels that were created and designed by the students, and it's maintained by the students even as they're still in school. And there's just so much to learn. You know, those are just like 2 examples, and like people are doing this work everywhere. So that's just kind of like what I see. If I can help like bridge the gaps between people with different ideas and technologies and see how, oh, we can learn this and maybe we can apply this here in Brooklyn where I'm from, or maybe there's something that you know down there in Florida that, you know, we can be applying over in Mozambique or, you know, elsewhere. Yeah, there's just so many possibilities.
You know, you brought up so many things. I'm thinking, you know, making the youth proactive and productive, busy. I'm thinking about obviously Blacks in STEM. You know, so in last week's Final Call newspaper, there's a story, and I'm forgetting the title, but it involves, or it's basically about a company, a Nigerian-based company that turns young Nigerian, you know, men and women, turn them from crime to become what's called agripreneurs. So basically educating them on the science of farming to be able to create a qualified class of farmers and then an interconnected network that they may learn from one another, create crops and everything, and then make a job for themselves, but also have this network that can train other farmers and sustain itself. So, but what was particularly interesting about this, and going back to your point, is the ability to capture the imagination and the focus of, and then maintain, sustain, and then propel that interest into daily and consistent work for the young mind, impressionable mind. And a lot of times, what we find is young people, you know, whether you think someone in your class is a bad child, or, you know, someone is a menace to society, or someone's not adding to, you know, what you feel should be added to. A lot of times children are bored, and boredom or stagnation is death, or feeds, you know, a lesser lifestyle, if you will, destructive lifestyles. But so the ability to be able to, with anyone really, capture their what is it that you want to do, or what do you like doing? Not only can I give you something to do that you can do with your hands, you can see a tangible output, and potentially you can get a few dollars for it. See, being able to do that is so key, particularly in STEM, because that's why STEM is so attractive, because you have, you know, something physical or just something tangible that you see that you had your imprint on, and you see society using it, and you see yourself being productive. So that was such a beautiful share, and that's amazing.
I mean, word to everything you just said. Like, and imagine like what that can do for a young person to just get to see, and like it's kind of like like having the opportunity, like, you know, like in our culture is like the whole idea of like you're all God's children of the Most High God, like being able to actually like flex your godhood and actually like do the thing that the minister says is fun, which is to take something from your mind and to actually see it happen in reality. Like that kind of I remember, oh my gosh, I remember speaking to some preschoolers about my travels, and I had come like wearing some of the garments from like the places that I had been, and I was like showing them like, you know, oh, I got this from here, I got this from here. One child raised her hand and asked me, are you a genie? And can you do magic? And I remember saying like, no, not a genie. Those are definitely not real. But like what you call magic is what adults call work. And that's like you definitely can like do something amazing where like you sit and you think on a thing and then you work and then poof, like, you know, now you like have that what was in your mind and you have it real. And imagine like what it does for a young person to like be able to do that. Like I tell the fellows at IYLI all the time, like everything that you use, everything that's in like the world around you was the result of somebody making an idea in their mind and deciding to make it real. Cell phones, tables, houses, you name it, they came from someone's mind. Like you can do the same thing. And imagine how much fun that is when you actually get to make that real. So I just say word to everything you just said.
You know, again, going back to really the power of a made-up mind. We're taught in our lessons the speed of thought. And excuse me for not remembering the exact figure right now. It's very fast.
24 billion.
Yeah. There you go. Praise be to Allah. You on your supreme wisdom. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
But so on that point, right? You know, the equation for power involves work and time. So how much work can you do or produce in a short or in a certain amount of time? Obviously, the more work you do over a short amount of time, the more powerful you are. So if thought moves at the fastest of rates really in the universe, and then based on your thoughts you can produce a certain amount of work, then you're truly powerful. And going back to what the Bible says about, yeah, all God's children are the Most High God, right? So if that's the case, how do I, like you said, exercise my godhood? Well, there seems to be some connection with godhood or one possessing power and force, and the ability to not only see a thing or imagine a thing, but work to bring that into fruition. Now, what we can really see here is it seems like one who has achieved that status is one who is able to do that at a high level. So, and I think it was the minister say the ability of one to control oneself, make choices that then lead them to the outcomes that they desire, is a true exercising of one's godhood, right? So that's all. Now when you relate that to STEM, right? You see all these inventions. You see STEM, science, technology moving forward. That's the embodiment of people with ideas moving out on them. Now, I want to connect this to something. A word that sticks out in your bio that I'm particularly interested in, I always like to highlight. You talk about access. And there are a few different things that I always feel are major hindrances to us, particularly in the Black community, when it comes to our success or our ability to move forward. One of which is access. You were able to speak to these preschoolers, so they had access to you and your mind, your experiences for whatever amount of time, to then inspire in them that somebody looks like me or someone is in front of me talking to me about something other than sports, other than entertainment, other than just getting a dollar, that I can then endeavor in to be able to add value to myself and to society. So what is your thought process on access? Why is it important? How have you and your organization, or you as an individual, moved to be a proponent of increased access for people in STEM or in other things?
So firstly, I think, well, one thing that we want to do in IYLI is to like make the possibility of travel something that's just ubiquitous and everywhere in our communities.
Right.
Like some things that are ubiquitous. Like I don't know. I guess people from Brooklyn or just from New York in general, like, will bring that up a lot in conversation. But like growing up in Bed-Stuy, like you like walk through the street, you just hear the conversations that young people are having. You know, we talk about the music that we like, what we saw on TV, the game last night, what people are wearing. Like, oh, you know, you got the J's, oh, the classic, whether the classic 4s are better than the new colorway of the 6s, and then Jordans and all this, you know, like that's like a combo that folks love to have where I'm from. And I will know that my job is done when conversations around travel are just that ubiquitous. You know, I say it all the time. It's like, you know, if you could walk down the street and hear like, I mean, you know, where'd you go last summer? Like, Egypt is cool, but you know, you ain't never been to Table Mountain, South Africa.
Right.
You don't know about that, like South Africa life, you know, like you ain't never been to Lesotho. Like, you know, if we can see the same kind of, because one thing I've noticed about, like, you know, when we travel anywhere, like Black folk tend to want to like show out however we can, wherever we are, no matter what culture we come from. There's always like a certain degree of like, you know, it's me, I'm here, show up kind of a vibe. And if we can just provide more access to that, like that's like kind of the goal that I've like dedicated myself wholeheartedly to, which is like making the world more accessible and like creating these cadres of young people worldwide who are working to assume leadership roles and making the world better wherever they are, and then introducing them to each other so that they can then like work more. So like now we have some students who, so I didn't found IYLI before I was born, but I direct it now, and like we have students who are saying things like, oh, you know, I could come back here and live here. Or, oh, that's a business opportunity right there. You know, maybe I want business in these different countries that I'm going to. And that's the stuff that I live for. And that for me comes to access, because it's like, once you know that you can go to these places and do these things, or like whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, you know, etc. Wherever there are human beings, there will be needs for these things. So you could be a doctor in, you know, another country, or you could, if you want to teach, you could teach elsewhere, or, you know, we can just, it's about expanding in our minds, like what is possible for us. And that's what I want people to have access to. And then the other part of that, I think it's twofold. I think it's like, access comes in two ways. Like one, like mindset. So like growing up, we didn't have a lot of money in my house, but like we have like the teachings, and we have like, which is a great thing to have access to, because then with the teachings, it gives you the capacity to go out and get anything else it is that you need. Like, you know, like just the kind of mindset and how you move is different. And there, like, yeah, so like one, there's that mindset piece, but then the other piece is honestly just like making these things more accessible in terms of like just, you know, reaching out to young people and letting them know that these opportunities are available, because, you know, we don't all get to have the benefit of having that kind of knowledge and wisdom. So we got to reach everybody. So it's like knocking on doors and telling people, hey, you know, got a scholarship, you could come to Africa with me, or whatever it takes, so that we can all have the benefit.
Right. Each one teach one. Takes a village. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your experience in Africa, I guess particularly Tanzania. Like, what was it that stood out to you? Were you amongst the people? Was it a more sanitized, quote unquote, environment? Like, what was the deal? Did you have fun? What's up?
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking back, and like I can see in my mind's eye. Tanzania is on the coast of East Africa, so because it's a coastal country, the Indian Ocean is right there. And prior to being there, I had never touched the Indian Ocean, which is pretty cool. It's like, whoa, I like dipped the whole toe in the whole new ocean. That, you know, in New York we just got the Atlantic, and it's dirty and it's not fun. And the beaches aren't. I'm sure they're not like in my. While we're there, in every country that we go to, whether it's Mexico or Ethiopia or Brazil or Cuba, wherever, we study the language at a university of that country. We visit different organizations on the ground doing work in that country. We do a little bit of community service. We visit like diplomatic offices, like government. So we'll visit the American embassy, and we'll visit some kind of like diplomatic office, like a representative from like the government on the ground there, to understand how they perceive the social and cultural dynamics of where they are. We also go to like the nice, fun cultural sites, but we also are like conducting hardcore research. So the students are like conducting seminars on different international and local issues. So they themselves are presenting about like the different articles and readings that we provide, and they're also doing ethnographies, which is like anthropological research. So what makes anthropology different from sociology, sociology being the study of society, anthropology is like kind of difference in method. So a sociologist might say, I had a question, maybe I put out a survey. There's different kind of methods, but the unique anthropological method of studying a people or trying to understand a certain aspect of people or a culture is to go into their like communities and study them from within. I heard someone say that 24 scientists like do the same thing. Like they'll like go into a community, study the people, and then from there project how, like based on their understanding, okay, I think this is the direction in the future that we'll go in, and this is what we need to do in order to like guide society or guide history in this certain way. That's anthropology. So anyway, our students are also doing like 3 ethnographies around like, what they see based upon, whatever it is that they're interested in. So I remember being in Tanzania in Arusha, which is a fun place to be. I remember wondering what the music in the stores that you go into could tell you about who the clientele is. Like if I'm walking into a store and I'm hearing like hip hop, or I'm hearing like American pop music or Miley Cyrus or something, it's like, okay, so maybe this is a more like Americanized, like kind of we're catered to American space versus the spaces that are catered to locals. And so that was like one thing that we were trying to like understand, so like these are the things that we do wherever we go. So it's hella academic, super book heavy. There's a whole lot to do. So we weren't just like having fun, but it was fun to just do things that I didn't know that I could do.
Right.
I remember being I could tell you about that. Being on the boat on the way to Zanzibar and realizing that I'm like 9,000 miles away from home, like on a boat being rained on, like literally word is bond to Allah, like dolphins jumping up alongside us, like swimming, playing with us. It's absurd, just completely absurd. I'm just thinking like, what has my life come to? So like, I figured I could do all this crazy stuff. What can't I do,
Right. Again, as you're talking, I'm reliving, I guess, my life. I lived for 4 weeks on the opposite coast in West Africa. And it's just like, being in the Volta region and the northern region, Accra, being in, and so I don't know if you ever heard of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, but KNUST is the major science and technology university there. And the program took Penn students and then KNUST students, put them together for different internships. So you had appropriate technology, which I was a part of, that dealt with beekeeping and mushroom cultivation, special education, health, and business or micro business. And I think one of the biggest things for me, obviously growing up and being in the Nation of Islam and seeing what a unit or a large group of Black people can do, but it almost feels like you're on another planet. You seeing our people in, everything from, I guess, going the janitor to like driving the taxi to being the president to selling you the fabrics to everything. You see our people, and it's just it just reasserts reestablishes in you, or sure as up to understand that you can do things of your own, pulling your own resources, you know what I'm saying? And I think one of the things for me that was the biggest eye-opener, or one thing I had to wrestle with, is the difference in, if you want to say, appreciation or understanding or weight that the transatlantic slave trade has on the African-born versus the American-born Black person. So then when we were over there, we went to Cape Coast slave castles. It was a very emotional experience for me, but not so much for the Ghanaian students. And it was throwing me a little bit, but I realized that's a small part of their history, in the sense that, like, when they trace back their ancestors or their fathers, grandfathers, and everything, they were still there. You know what I'm saying? So for us, there's a different appreciation. I'm looking over the water, and I'm just like, man, from this spot, my forefathers were taken or whatever. But going back to the whole thing, it was a great experience because it allowed my mind to travel, and then it obviously gave me another appreciation for the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that it's root knowledge, and you're able to really relate to your other people, your environment, and be able to stand out as someone who has that. So I'm telling you, like going back to you were saying about being able to travel, about having access, about the reasons why people need to do so. It just, I guess, lets you know that wherever you are, that's not the only way to think, to move, to do things. There's other ways of living that are not necessarily so bad, but are working for people. You know what I'm saying? And then you being able to tap into those allows you to be really a better global citizen, you know?
Yeah.
So
I think that, if I may,
yeah,
I'm inspired. I think that it definitely, it just comes back to like being able to see yourself. And like by being able to see yourself, you can see like the different possibilities like that could exist for you. Like even in going to places that like aren't classically being understood as like being part of the like the African diaspora, or rather, perhaps more importantly, knowing that you can belong anywhere that you are, because this entire planet is part of the whole being, you know, the original people of the planet package, you know, like this whole planet, you go places and see evidence of your own greatness and see evidence of yourself. I remember being in, I forgot the city. I remember being in some places like more inland China, and I remember seeing folks like taking pictures with, like bowing to like a black Buddha. And I remember trying to ask, I'm like, oh hey, because you don't really see too many black people, so like even seeing like a black statue, I was like, oh, is it me? Is it me?
right.
Like is this what I mean? I was like, oh, is it black because it's black, or is it black because, you know, too many people just touched all over it, and you know, the paint came off, right? You know, the paint came off, and so now it's black. They were like, oh no, this particular Buddha guy was known for having dark skin, and I'm like, oh, like, oh look, it's me. Like, just like being, it's like a baby putting a mirror up to a baby and then finally being able to like recognize themselves. It's like that kind of stuff really is real, you know, and getting able to like see a reflection of yourself wherever you go. It's powerful because then you know you can go anywhere.
Right. And you know that your history is so vast. It's not just North Philly. It's not just Compton. It's not Harlem. Wherever it is you're from, wealthy, not wealthy, whatever, like wherever you're from is not the world, you know, or not the earth rather, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you're from is just where you're from, and then it's your experiences up to now. But understanding that you have the ability to ask questions, to move about, to travel, to try to network, in the sense that you meet people, you make choices, you have experiences that add value to you. So now when you produce another generation, you're able to educate them based on the expanded knowledge base that you have, as opposed to starting from ground zero. And that gets into legacy, right? You know, science is STEM is so crucial to legacy building, because, you know, a lot of times, you know, people talk about what they do for a living, right? And it's like, okay, well, I have a job. So I can make six figures. I can have a super high paying job, but I cannot pass my job to my child. They just get in line behind me, right? But see, with not only a discipline in them, but with the scientific mindset, with a critical thinking mindset, now I start to think, well, you know what? Okay, I could work for somebody, but is that, or does that have to be the end all be all? Can I create a niche, or can I see a need and supply a solution for that need, to then generate revenue and wealth for myself and my family? You know what I'm saying? And then build my community, or start to build my community, so that people want to come to or stay as opposed to leave. So that people understand that they can too have a tangible impact on where they live, and it be a good one and not a destructive one. You know? So I think, for me personally, the reason I get so passionate, and I'm so passionate and so excited about science, technology, engineering, mathematics, because it impresses on the mind the ability to break the impossible. The ability to gain requisite understanding of yourself first and then your surroundings to be able to get the solution that you to the problem that you see. You know?
That's it.
Right. And then right, like you said, so again, I'm rambling, but you got me so amped, so excited because you're really hitting on those hot buttons that I think about every day. You know, so I definitely thank you so much. Well, actually, it's crazy. We're approaching the end of the show, and you know, around this time, based on what we've heard, and this is, you know, we like to ask all of our guests this one question. So, if you have, you know, do you have any siblings?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm the youngest.
So if you have like a younger cousin.
Oh no, I don't have younger siblings. I'm the youngest.
Okay, so if you have any, I don't know, nieces, nephews, or a young person comes up to you on the street,
Yeah.
Jadayah. So, what does science mean to you? And you're sitting there, you're trying to answer them. What would you say?
Yeah, it's like the most natural thing in the world. Like science is it's the exploration, it's the curiosity. It's like one is the it's us trying to understand the laws that govern the universe that we live in, you know. But then on top of that, I just think of like, you know, when I think of science, I think of curiosity and how the minister said that every baby is born a natural scientist. You got the scientific method, you got the hypothesis, you got a question, you got an experiment, you have a conclusion, you have other tests. Baby crawls, I wonder, can I eat this? Tries to eat it, finds out, in fact, you can't eat it, goes and tries something else. I think of science just being, you know, it's just like you said, it's the thing that, if you're thinking in terms of like the circumference of our action, and you think of it like a limit of what we think we can do, science is that thing that like pushes us even further. It is really the thing that I'm so inspired. It's the thing that catalyzes for us that godhood and really helping us to see, you know, what we can do. I think all the time, part of why another like reason why I love travel. Last thing is just that like you know how they say meditate and find a happy place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So my happy place is on planes. I can literally never be unhappy if I'm on a plane because if you think about it, just like 100-ish, maybe 109, I think years ago, like Wilbur and Orville Wright, you know, they were being harassed by people all over the world who were calling them charlatans and telling them that they were stupid, you know, that they're gonna work in their little bike shop and pull together wood and metal and plastic and shape it like a bird and then it's gonna fly. But they, you know, they stuck with their vision and they did it. And now it's normal to say things like, oh, we had a delay at the airport. Or, you know, we can talk about, you know, reaching Mars and all this good stuff. And all because, you know, they decided to follow through on that idea. And so getting to be in a plane is like, you know, like if you've been on a plane before, you get to, and you sit in the window seat where I like to sit, you can like look outside and like look down in the same clouds that we look up at, you can look down on those clouds and like you can look past those clouds and see homes and houses. And before they're deciding to do that, we couldn't necessarily see things normally from that kind of perspective. And it's just like being in like a physical manifestation of the beauty of human beings when we when we decide to like really put our minds toward like transcending a limitation that we thought we had. You know, it makes me think, what else can we transcend? What other limits do we have with ourselves that we, what else can we do? What can we do now that we didn't think that we could do before? Like how else might we be able to push that thing forward, So to answer your question in the shortest way, science is the exploration of, what's possible. Possibility. It's the same thing.
The exploration of possibility. That's one of my favorite answers, definitely. Not just saying that because it's, sometimes we get a real technical answer. Sometimes we get a real creative answer, something in between, but the exploration of possibility, the ability to use your mind, to use, whatever knowledge, apparatus, whatever, to explore what's possible. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
That's it.
And you brought up Oh man, so many good points. Talk about curiosity, exploration of what's possible. You know, sometimes when you just sit back and look at life, right? You know, you look at, you know, the tables around you, look at, you know, the trees, you look at, you know, a lot of what is done in STEM is really to try to recreate or build from what's in nature and what works so well in nature. And I think for me, another thing I appreciate so much about STEM is the ability to relate more to nature and my surroundings. Really try to understand that Allah really is a master engineer. He has created life to abide by certain laws that blend together to create balance within his universe, right?
Yeah.
And as engineers, one in the sciences striving to be similar or like that in the sense that you create or you manufacture with the health of society in mind, with the health of or the balance of your surroundings, your environment in mind, not to tear down in the sense that not to severely disrupt or make people's lives worse, but that much better because of the technology that you have created that's in accordance with the laws of the universe. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
at Sister Jadayah, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. You don't know how much it means to both myself and Brother Tariq. Um, before we go, is how can people like follow you, get in touch with you, learn more about IYLI? Any information you'd like to leave us with?
Yes. You can find out about IYLI at iyli.org. iyli.org. That's iyli.org. Yeah, you can just like find out about it. One thing that we want to do is to like we're based in New York, but you don't technically have to be in New York to participate. It's just harder. So we would like to expand to more cities. So like if you are interested in like helping being a part of that effort, let me know. You can reach me. It's my first name at iyli.org. If for folks who are watching, if you see like the flyer with my name, Jadayah at iyli.org, you can reach me there. Or you can follow me on Instagram too. It's Jadayah S. It's pretty simple.
Nice, nice. Jadayah S. And for Original Man Scientific, again, we are not solely a YouTube channel. This is one of the ways that we extend the STEM brand, the OMS brand, and really highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We are a research and development company first. You can follow Original Man Scientific at OMANSCI underscore. That's at OMANSCI underscore. OMS TV at OMS underscore TV. And myself at Jabrilliant underscore engineer. That's JABRILLIANT underscore engineer. And
Can I mention one last thing?
go ahead. Absolutely.
Sorry. So one thing I did want to mention, if you're in New York City, you can absolutely just like come through to our seminars. You can find out about those at info@iyli.org. But then also we have an international career panel coming up in June, which is going to be like a whole lot of fun. Like we just bring in like folks from across the diaspora who are working internationally already. Whether you're doing international fashion business or international comedy or diplomacy, there's just so much you can do. So if you're in New York City and if you're interested in coming through, check us out, info@iyli.org, and we can let you know about how to come through and join us for that. I just wanted to make that note.
Absolutely. And again too, please, please, please look into our live, follow Jadayah. Look into the great work that she and the organization are doing. And then lastly, family, like thank y'all so much for all of those who have watched. Please like, watch, share, subscribe to OMS TV on YouTube, and also to please support STEM-based content via Cash App at hashtag OMS TV. That's hashtag OMS TV. With that, family, it's been a blast. Again, co-host, Jabari Engineer, Director of Engineering, Jadayah Spencer Muhammad, our illustrious guest. Until next time, family, it's been great. Peace and blessings. Y'all have a wonderful night. Like salam, man.